Yeah. Right. I think we're live.
Yeah, I think it also shows that on my side.
Yes. We are live. We are live. Good
Yeah.
evening, everybody, and you are welcome to Soul Meet. I am Bosede Comfort Luyomi, also goes by the brand name Bosede Luyomi. And this is the very first edition of Soul Meet program, a program that has been created to empower, impact, and motivate everyone from children to adults, men, women. And today we are going to start our very first edition with Mr. COLE Motlogewa, an author, a motivational speaker, even though I don't think he's gonna call himself one, a Pan-Africanist and a law student. But before we continue, I would just like to, open this entire program because this is just the very beginning. I like to open it with a word of prayer so that,
Yeah.
we do our best, we leave the rest to the Lord. Amen. Thank you. All
Yeah.
right.
Amen.
All right. Thank you. Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for this day that you have made. We rejoice and we're glad in it. Thank you so much, Lord, for an opportunity, Father, to share what you've given us, oh God, with others. And we know, Lord, it's a learning opportunity. Thank you, Lord Jesus, for all the obstacles that had to be removed, Father, for this to happen. Thank you so much, Father, for the courage. Thank you, Lord, for the inspiration. And thank you for every single person that will be part of this program that will change lives, change nations, and change the world. Father, we open Soul Meet in the name of the Father, in the name of the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Amen. Yes,
Amen.
we are ready to go.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Cole, for coming and accepting my
Yeah.
invitation. You're going to be my very, very first guest on this program. And I don't think this is
Yes.
going to be the last time I'm going to be having you here. I hope not. I hope not.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
can you please introduce yourself or introduce yourself? I could say a lot of things, but if it comes directly from you, it'll be,
Yeah.
yes, much better.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me thank you for the opportunity to have me in your show. And it genuinely means a lot to me that I get to be the first person. So nobody can take this breaking rights. And yeah, so and obviously we thank God for your life and for giving you the intelligence to create such a platform. And of course, I'm hopeful that one day it will be a podcast with 4K cameras and all that.
Yes.
But
Amen. Yes.
but until then, this is where we are. So to introduce myself, my name is Cole Motlogelwa. I am a Motapon tribesman from the village of Ratfolo. And I'm a final year law student at the University of Botswana. I am a Pan Africanist and I'm a student of Black consciousness. And I
Hmm.
am the former Secretary General of the Federation of African Law Students, Botswana, Alas Botswana. And yes, and I'm an author, which is the most important thing. But other than those titles, I am a son, I'm a brother, I'm a Christian, and yeah, so that's how I would introduce myself. I don't know much. I don't know about the motivational speaking part. That one you have
But
to ask the
but
host.
you see, the thing is, motivational speaking sometimes it's not even a matter of standing in front of a large audience and
Yeah.
who's in wisdom and who's in knowledge. But it's actually it's basically giving ourselves to others, giving ourselves through our experiences, the little knowledge that we have to impact the lives of others as well. So in one way or the other, we motivate each other daily.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes, definitely. So you you seem like a very well-rounded, focused young person, and you've really come a long way as an author, as a writer, because you've published your 2 books to date, right? So can you tell us
Yes.
more about your writing journey?
Yes. I think that this will be the first time I mention it.
Mm,
Anyway, I just recalled it I think a few days ago when I was preparing for this, and then I remember that I once written a book on a hardcover, just a notebook, or just on a notebook, sometimes in Bogamoso Junior Secondary School. I think I was 14 at the time.
mm,
And so what happened was there was some student who was also in our level who had written a book that circulated in the school. And I had an opportunity to go through it and read it. And I was greatly inspired by that. I said, oh, so this is actually possible. So I then set out on a journey to also write a book. And of course, it had many grammatical errors. And I had there were some students in our class. Her name was Sharon, and she was the brightest in class. So I gave her the manuscript to edit, and I nearly cried when it came back because it was a pencil was all over each sentence when she was trying to correct on the cover. That was my first experience with an editor. So because when the editor, when you get a manuscript from the editor, you always feel like crying. You question yourself if you should
yeah.
even be a writer to start with. So so I could say, that's maybe probably where it started.
Mm,
But other than that, I've always enjoyed writing compositions and
mm,
stories. In fact, in Naledi Senior, every composition that I've written in English was read in class,
mm.
along with other
Wow.
compositions. And so my I could call it a faith when it comes to compositions, but was never about the precise application of grammar and punctuation and all that. It was about the storyline itself. I was very good when it comes to plots, on how to plot a good story, how to interpret
Mm,
a title. So that's people enjoyed my writings for that. So, and then in 2019, I think it was during winter. I mistakenly wrote my Facebook, and and I say and I
mistake.
and I say mistakenly because I just woke up and just took a decision that I'm going to write a book. I didn't even research on how to write one. I just
You just
opened my
wrote.
laptop and just started typing. and then and then when I crossed the 10,000 words mark, then I was like, I can't, there's no going back. So I might as well just complete this. So so that's how I wrote my first book. And
Mm,
and then for the second one, obviously now I've written the first one and people
mm.
want the second one. So I was like, so I'm not done. You actually want more. And then I then wrote the Kabal.
The
So I could
cabal.
say that, yes. So that's and thank you because you own both copies. Yeah. So that's my writing journey. So right now yeah, I also published that short story. I think we're going to talk about
Yeah.
it
Yes.
during the show. And I'm also working on a memo. So about my experience in law school. So yeah, I could say that
Wow. Wow.
yeah.
Wow. Wow. If if
Yeah.
there's anything like one crucial message I can take from that brief presentation, I mean, just narration of your story, your writing journey, is that
Yeah.
you need to take the very first step so that every other thing can follow. You woke up one
Yes.
morning, just woke up, you started typing, and you never
Yeah.
looked back since that time.
Yeah.
So that is
Yeah.
actually an encouragement, especially to those who have who picture themselves as future authors as well. Sometimes
Yeah.
we draw back because like it's not good enough. Like you're saying, I think that's every writer's nightmare. Giving your
Yeah.
manuscripts to a professional, it will not come back the same way.
True.
And you
True.
will not look at it the same way, because I think the first time I did that with one of my books, and I think the person, I don't know, she didn't use a red pen, but the color,
Yeah.
but it was, you can see the scribbles all over the book. And in your heart you'll be like, no, but I know what I wrote, it's perfect for me. But somebody else, will look at it objectively, and they'll begin to see things you otherwise wouldn't have seen yourself. Because of course
Yeah.
it's your book, you'll be biased. And that's
Yes.
really important, that we need to take the first step to victory, the very first step to that, towards our dream, towards our goals, and then
Yes.
everything else will fall into place. And now
That's very true.
yeah, so if I can just give you a few minutes to just like take us through, just read an excerpt from any one of your books. And by the way,
Yes.
I have those two books here. The Englishman is gone, and the Cabal. So if you don't
Yes.
have those copies, anyway, every information about how you can purchase your copies will be provided.
Yes. So thank
Yeah.
you, and thank you once again. So I'll read from the I'll just read a paragraph from The Englishman is Gone, and that will be
Okay.
page 36, and that'll be chapter.
All
It's
right.
my favorite chapter, chapter 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's because
Oh,
you will realize
economy.
that it's the longest chapter in the book because it's about the
You
economy.
took your time. You did. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so I will just read a paragraph just under land, the title of land,
Mm.
that every life derives its existence from land.
Yeah.
Even the fish gets its oxygen from the plants that grow in the land beneath the waters. If an ordinary Motswana does not own land, then his life is worthless. We need land, and we need to own that land. Even when the Englishman arrived in our land, the first thing he wanted was land. So this is the one of the paragraphs in
Yes.
the book, or one of the excerpts from the book, which stresses the importance of land ownership. Because I genuinely believe that land is a critical aspect of one's life. And I
Absolutely.
was very excited. Yeah, and I was very excited when we started taking conveyancing and notarial. That has always been the theme, that you need to get land. And then I
Don't
recalled
remind me. No.
wherever you can, grab it. And then I remembered my chapter 5, and I was just smiling. I was like, yeah, so I guess I was on to something back in those days. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Because, the land issue, I think it's a very controversial one, especially here in Africa. Because when you look
Mm,
at different parts of Africa right now, that
mm,
it's African soil, but it's owned not by the people of Africa, but people from
yeah,
outside, and
yeah,
the land issue, we've had issues of this rising from even neighboring countries, South Africa, Zimbabwe,
yeah,
Zambia. We hear stories of a country being sold, as in a country doesn't belong to that country, but there's a particular nation outside of the African continent that owns it. And yeah, so
yeah,
this book really highlights the the issues that came with colonialism, and the fact
yeah,
that even till today we're still not fully recovered. And I don't think maybe there will ever be a full recovery from the entire
yeah,
process that took place.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
we will never fully recover, but we can
Mm.
just try a day by day, and
Yeah.
and see what
True.
happens.
Exactly, and see what happens, and make the most of every opportunity, especially as young people. And
Yes.
going back to the issue of land, I remember that one of the things, if I just briefly just mention her, that our lecturer for conveyancing and notarial, I think the first thing she asked us in class when we started last year, and maybe I think even when she took us for land, like, how many of you here own land? It's
Yes.
like, how many
Yeah.
of you here own land? How many of you own, a property? And the number wasn't very impressive. And she was really disappointed. Like, what are you waiting for? Like, what are you waiting for? So,
Yes.
you
Yes.
addressing that point in this book that if you don't own land, then you really don't have, anything, because
Yeah. True.
land ownership is, it gives you, I don't want to say identity, but it gives you confidence in of
Yeah.
ownership. It's
And
something that should
dignity.
never be taken from you. Like, no, even this is something that is, transgenerational. It can pass to one generation to the other. And
Yes.
I think that's one of those things they figured out. So we need to figure that, point out ourselves too. Yeah, so
Yeah.
thank you so much for reading that excerpt from your book, The Englishman is Gone. Now that you have these two books, what was okay, the first book, You Just Woke Up, you really didn't plan for it, but I'm sure even after
Yeah.
you published it, and the Cabal as well, what were you aiming to? I mean, what did you want to achieve writing these two books?
Yes. So, one thing that I now realize that I intended to do, because sometimes you do things without knowing why you are doing them, and then it only makes
Mm,
sense at a later stage as to why you were doing this thing.
true.
So, and when you look at the introduction of The Englishman is Gone, it makes a huge claim that it's a blueprint for the future. So
Mm,
I then realized that the purpose of my writing is
mm,
to teach,
mm.
to conscientize, to highlight issues for people, to make people to rise up to action, to do something
Yes,
about the status quo
yes.
that we found ourselves in. Even
Mm.
the Cabal itself, as much as it's a fictional piece of writing,
Ooh,
when you,
that book.
when you,
Mm,
when you
mm, mm.
yeah, so when you read it through the lens of a student of literature, you will then be able to see that it's actually a teaching tool.
Yeah,
It highlights controversial issues of our society, many of which we are unwilling to talk about on a daily basis. Or if we were
exactly.
to, yeah, or if you were to talk about them, you would get a lot of backlash because they're awkward conversations.
Very awkward.
So sometimes, yeah, and sometimes when it's a story, then people tend to stomach it better, knowing that it's just a character created by
Yes.
the author. Yeah, so I think now the purpose of my writing is to highlight those issues, to try and break them down to the level of anyone, of any member of our society, to see them as issues that are worth being talked about. So I
Hmm.
think, yeah, that are just tools that I'm using to play my little role in the transformation of our society.
Hmm. Wow, wow, that's really profound. That's really, really
Mm.
profound, because now it goes back again to the point of taking out what is hidden, that ordinarily people wouldn't see these things unless their eyes are opened, or
Yeah.
even forced to open, unless their ears are forced to open, and unless the minds are forced to open. These are, like you're saying, these are things that are topics that are controversial. We would rather
Yeah.
just bury them than talk about them, because we're worried about the feedback, the backlash we're going to get from people. But for
Yes.
example, when I read the Cabal, that book literally kept me at the edge of my seat. I don't even know what kept me from calling you up and and like, what kind of book is this? And just rant on the phone like, Cole, where is this book going?
Yeah.
Because it was so thrilling. Like, it was so mysterious. Like, you couldn't
Yeah.
predict. how it was going to end. You couldn't predict who the culprits were, and it also opened my eyes, and I think the eyes of anybody who is very naive about politics. These are the things that actually go on behind the doors. These are the issues. These are the not so pretty part of politics that we don't get to see a lot. So so
And
it was very enlightening.
and it's similar to what you did in Come What May, you know, where a person's his faith is being tested by what happens in our society, you know, where you have to try and balance the forces of this world and your faith. Like, so many terrible things happening to one person, and you're just wondering how on earth will this person survive? And that aspect even in faith is not something that is being talked about. Nobody wants to talk about those things. Nobody wants to talk about you know, things like infidelity, like, you know, somebody just, you know, people fighting over somebody to a point that they would even kill for that, like
Yes.
all those issues that are so it's similar to what you do in when you write your books.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. And I think that is one thing every writer should also have at the back of their mind. That when we write, of course, sometimes, like you're saying, the old picture might not come out immediately when you started writing. But, you know, as you go on, even as you go back to reread and edit the book and our works, it is very important that whatever we produce, whatever we are writing, it's going to be something that is not just about the quality of the prints, right? But the quality of the content and how it's going to change the reader, how it's going to impact the reader, and not only those who are reading it at that moment, but even those that will read it, you know, in years to come as well. It must stay relevant as time goes on. Relevance is very important. Yeah. And that's one thing that your book communicates as well. Relevance in different phases and, you know, aspects of society at large. And, you know, of course, you'd mentioned that you just woke up and you wrote the book. What were the challenges you faced as a first-time author in publishing The Englishman is Gone?
So when you are writing, when I was writing for the first time, like I said, you know, I didn't know what I was doing. So which means that I struggled more unnecessarily because I was just writing and writing. And so, but if I had properly plotted and know that this chapter will talk about this, and this is how it will link to this, which is something that I did after now when I was done, and, you know, people looking at it to say that, oh, but you could have written 6 books with all these chapters. So how do you then link this one? Because there's just too many things involved in one book.
In
And then
one
you have
book.
to go back. And then you have to go back and fix that. So, you know, like currently that are what I'm facing, because when you're writing a memo, then you need to have a theme about what aspect of your experience are you going to focus on. But, you know, every time you put words in about your life, like, you can't just sum up your life with one title. So it's those challenges when I was beginning, I didn't even know that those were challenges that existed. So which means I couldn't find ways to navigate them. And the other thing was knowing what to do with the manuscript. You've written a book, then what? How do you get to now have a book? Do I give my mom to go and print out the A4s and with a stapler, or what? Like, who do I go
What
to? You know?
exactly?
And then that's when I actually stumbled on self-publishing with KDP, and I didn't know anyone who had published through Amazon KDP, so it means I had to research on how to open an account and learn how to upload the manuscript. They rejected it so many times because something was not right. Either the words spelled where they should not be The cover was horrible, and I think I posted the first cover on my page. So those were some of the challenges. I didn't even know I had to find someone to do a proper cover if I couldn't do a professional one myself. But lucky for some authors, they're able to make a good cover for themselves, which is wonderful. Kudos to them. But with me, it turns out I wasn't.
You were not one of them.
Yeah, I'm not one of them, Shem. So I didn't know, and I didn't even know that you needed to have somebody to look at your book. And I remember I also sent it to one of our colleagues to have a look at it. And obviously he's not a professional editor, you know. Yeah, he did help, and I do acknowledge him on the book. But you know, I didn't know I needed somebody who actually did that for a living.
To proofread.
Yeah, you know. So I didn't, even when it comes to editing, I didn't know what proofreading would mean. Content edification, like I knew nothing. But so obviously when that happens, it becomes extremely difficult.
Yes.
And also because I didn't know what publishing means. Then it means that you can't even negotiate when you are given an invoice. When somebody tells you this is how much it will cost, you don't even know the market price. So you just you either pay because you think maybe it's not that bad, or you don't pay because you think it's expensive, but turns out it wasn't actually expensive. That's the normal price. So all those things. And also I didn't know that I had to prepare for the launching of the book. And I'll be launching, and we're gonna talk about that, because this is the book that I'm launching. And it's gonna be weird for some people that you're actually launching your first book when you've already launched your second book. So I didn't know that you had to do that. I didn't know you had to market. I thought people are gonna buy just because they're my friends or they know me. I thought that,
You'll be surprised.
I thought I wasn't even gonna have time to even do anything because my book will be ringing, people placing orders, you know. So those are some of the challenges, you know. Yeah, those financial challenges. Obviously, I'm a student, I'm not working. So yeah, writing is expensive for those who don't know.
It is. Publishing is not, like, especially self-publishing. You are literally doing everything yourself. Like it's strenuous. It's a lot of work. There'll be many times you would want to give up because, like, this is too much, because you are doing the work that a lot of people should be doing. Like, because in a publishing company, they would have the editorial team, the editing team, they will have the graphic designing team. They have different departments that deal with these things. But when you're self-publishing, you are everything. You are the author, you are the editor, you are the designer, you are doing everything. So that makes it a lot of work. And I really hope that from what you've shared, that any young person or any writer or that wants to publish their book, they will take these things that you've mentioned into consideration, do their research, so that they follow, so that at least maybe the journey will be much more easier for them, because they would have done all their background checks and everything that is needed, and they'll just go through that path. So thank you very much for that. You're, like we already said at the beginning, you're not only an author, you're also a law student. So how are you, since you started your writing journey, how have you been able to balance? Because law is not a piece of cake, because you have so much to read.
It is not. It is not.
No.
I think it's a question of trying to see how you can balance things. That one of them is going to suffer. Actually, both of them are going to suffer. So if you're going, if you're going to write a book, it means that sometimes you'll be working on the book, or you'll be working on your marketing strategies, or you'll be preparing for a launch, or you'll be arguing and fighting the guy who prints books because they can't meet deadlines. You know, you are on your phone trying to navigate. You are finding ways of guilt tripping your friends into buying the book.
Into
So
buying the
it's
book.
quite so it's quite difficult. And
It
also you have
is.
multiple, you have your reading materials, you have cases to read,
Mm-hmm.
you have articles to read, you have to prepare for your lectures, you have to write notes, you have to make short notes, you have to, all those things. So one of
Yes,
them is going to suffer. And
definitely.
I think because I've never been an exceptionally performing student academically in any of my academic journey. I think that's what helps, because if perhaps I was, one of those straight A's, not having those B's there and C's there, just straight A's, then it was going to be very difficult, because then it means your attention will be divided. But if you're
Yeah.
just above average, I mean, yeah, you can get your 60s, you're fine, you know. And then, you also write then promoted. So, but what I did is that I worked mostly on my books during vacations,
Mm-hmm.
during winter breaks, and during semester breaks. That's when I would write. So I would not write a book during the academic year, during the
Oh,
semester.
okay.
I would do that.
You dare to not.
Yeah, because I wouldn't be able to multitask to that level.
Yeah, to multitask.
Yeah,
True,
yeah.
true,
So
true, true.
I don't know about the balance. I think I don't have a formula of how to balance it, but maybe during your spare time you can use it for your writing,
Yeah,
and
true.
then most of the time you can take it to your education. And I think it will
Yes.
also depend on what you value much. Because because I could be speaking to somebody who wants to be a full-time author, and they hear me saying that, and they will misinterpret me to say that you have to value your academics more than you value your art.
You're
So
right. Yeah, you're right.
that is definitely not what I'm saying. But because it was a question for my subjective, requiring my subjective answer, that's what I value. So I wouldn't trade my genuine LLB
Yes.
for a book. Yeah.
True, true. So at the end of the day, it's a matter of setting our priorities straight. What comes
Yes.
first and what, because at the end of the day, you're going to achieve both goals. It's just that one will have
Yes.
to take, you're going to give one
Precedent.
more
Yeah.
time, more of your dedication than
Yeah.
the other. And not that you have
Yeah.
forsaken the other, but like, no, the time will come for that one. But this time, this is
Yes.
it. So we need to know
Yes.
how to set up our priorities. Which
Yes.
is, yeah, which
Because
is
you can
correct.
imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you can imagine. Let's say maybe somebody wants 10 copies of your book. They
Mm.
want them delivered today, but you have a test tomorrow at 7. You know, you have to decide as to whether you are failing tomorrow or you are making sales. So,
True.
so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, would take us right into our next question I have for you. And that has to do
Yeah.
with the short story that you wrote titled
Yeah.
Ecstasy After Despair. Because now you're talking about writing tests, and then there is your writing on the side, you want to make money on the side, and then there is, the education on that side. And
Yeah.
that story highlighted issues of unemployment in Botswana. In fact, when I was reading
Yeah.
it, you know, because my own journey, my experience with unemployment and looking for
Yeah.
work, of course, everybody's stories are different, but there's
Yeah.
similarities somewhere in between. And in that
Yeah.
story of ecstasy after despair, this is a young man that is looking for work. He was called up for an interview, but he's being told you have to pay a certain amount of money before we
Yeah.
process your documents and stuff like that. Like, what do you think are some of the measures that can be put in place today to prevent, to reduce the problem of unemployment, to regulate all these ways that people get jobs and reducing the risk of people getting scammed. Of course, at the end of the day, you have to be responsible for yourself. But what do you think, as the youth or as the general public, that can be done within our own means in dealing with this issue of unemployment?
Yeah. So I mean, the easy answer would be to say, we should make sure that everybody has a job. I mean, that's the shortest the shortest answer. But but
Yeah.
I think what could also be done is that we live in a capitalist society, which means that you must always have something that somebody else needs. So what should also be what can be done is that, especially as young people, because we are the ones who are mostly excluded from the economy, we need
True.
to find ways of creating our own opportunities. We need to have the group mentality, or what is often coined as the Ubuntu mentality, where humanity comes before anything. And by that I mean that we need to start hustling as a group than as individual. So we need to do away with this idea of saying, if I can save myself, then I'm fine. And that is why we are all failing. But if we could come together, contribute whatever little we have, combine our heads, our skills, we can come up with you know opportunities for ourselves that we can sustain ourselves with. Right now, let's take, because we're on the topic of literature, let's take literature for example. Many of us would have people who either have an experience in graphic design, or we have a friend who has an experience in graphic design. And we also have friends who really understand writing. They can write, they can edit, they can do that. And we will also have people who they probably have a skill of knowing how to print a book. They possess the skill, they know which paper to buy, where to buy it cheaper, which machine to use. If they don't have their own, who they can go to in order to print that. So they have those kind of skills. We also have people who are good at selling anything. They can even sell a rock if you can give them the talent. So, and then you realize that all these four people, they're all working on their own. The one who is a graphic designer is looking for a job from a company to become a graphic designer. The one who can print books is also looking for a job to print for a company. This one who can write is looking for a job as a ghost writer somewhere in some site
The
online.
struggle is real.
This other one is also looking for a job in a newspaper so that they can start writing articles. So we are working on individual journeys that we don't have to work. We wouldn't have to work on them if we were to come together and work together. So and that is just what can be done at an individual and at a personal level. To say that identify people who have what you don't have, find ways of what you can do together. I mean, if you can write you have a friend who has a camera and you can write a script, and your friend has a camera, you also have friends who know that they can put that script into life, then you can start making videos. You can, nowadays social media, you can blow up. Of course, it's probably one in 1,000 or 1 in 10,000, but
What
maybe
happened?
you can be that one. So and that's just at a personal level. And then there's the level at a political level, where with people who actually have the power to change things in our society. The people that we gave power, that we gave the authority to do something about our lives. You know, so first of all, it goes back to what we talked earlier. Make sure that everybody has land. I mean, there's a lot of land. There's no reason why people should be having 1,000 plots and somebody doesn't have any. So let's make sure that we all, yeah. I mean, if you have land, you can't be hungry when you have land. Honestly speaking, you know, you can do anything in your land, and just like there are people who are buying vegetables right now when they have a backyard. Why are you doing that? You know, so it doesn't make any sense, you know. So, but people will never think that far if they don't have land. But if you know that you have a piece of land, you are not utilizing it, and you know that if you were to utilize it, you get that kind of money, then you can always do something about it. So give people land and then support them. Because I think we don't have the lack of education. We are already highly educated. What we need is the land to be given to the people so that they can try and utilize it. We can deal with unemployment and that. And also protect our people. I understand, you know, as clever blacks, sometimes we are stopped from thinking because you've done trade law. Now you are saying, when you are saying protect the markets of our people, you are then in infringement of the MFN principle, what national treatment, what, you know, all those things. But, you know, that's the problem with us, clever blacks. We know too much. But let's protect our people by any means we can. Let's find ways of navigating the law, you know, make sure that our opportunities are here for us and that we benefit from our resources, you know. So we have many natural resources that we should be benefiting from that we are not benefiting from. So, but if anybody wants to know really what I think, they can just buy the English manuscript where I deal with that chapter what that deals with the economy. It has many wonderful ideas there. So let me just end my long answer.
Yeah, and like thank you so much for that extensive answer, because at the end of the day, when you talked about the principles or the principle of Ubuntu, for example, because there's this saying that if you are one rich person among 100 poor people, you're still poor.
Yeah.
Because you have to take care of every single one of them. By the time, you know, everything is gone. But if we come together, for example, when you talk about the publishing idea, for example, you come with your skill, I come with my skill, we create a publishing company or we create a publishing hub, and, you know, we're providing the services. By the time the proceeds will come, everybody will benefit from that. So at the end of the day, we need to get rid of the mentality of the escape from poverty is getting a job. We need to remove that mentality, because those things we got them from high school. No, finish high school, you go to UB, you get a job, that's it. Like, no, you should be able to think out of the box. What skills do I have that can generate income and wealth for me? What skills, what gifts do I have that can generate income and wealth for my community? So, you know, you've really outlined very important points that every young person should really take into consideration.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, you know, going back to you know, you are using the law here and there, you know, in your responses, and I'm sure that your family, they are, you know, they are very, very expectant. You know, one day we're going to have barista, attorney, Motlogelwa in the family. So what I mean, how are they, you know, balancing that with the author side of you? Like, okay, can I someday maybe you will drop the LLB and like, I'm not going to be a lawyer anymore, I'm going to be an author. How did they take it when you said you're going to publish?
Yes. So what happened with my actually all my books, I secretly write them. And then I tell them when I'm launching. And then they're like, okay, so all these times when you lock yourself in your room, you actually
You've been writing.
Like, yeah. So I think they're obviously looking forward to me being an artist.
Yeah.
I think they would be, I don't know, but I suspect they wouldn't take kind of the idea of, if I were to say, well, I'm gonna take my LLB, I'm gonna shelf it, and I'm just gonna be an author. I'm gonna be the best-selling author, and yeah, I'm gonna be a millionaire through writing. I think they would be devastated. So I don't even think it is in their minds that there might be a conflict between writing and being a full-time lawyer.
Yes.
I don't think it ever occurred to them that I might actually have a
You might.
difficulty
You
between
might
the
drop
two.
it.
So yeah, because I've never had any of them to say, yeah. One day, yes, hopefully your books are gonna put food on the table. Now, there's always been, oh, when are you finishing with your law school so that you can become a lawyer and start your life? So, but other than that, they're quite supportive. They're there for me when I launch my books. They're there, and they are the first buyers. Well, by default, because I tell them, wait, I'm giving you this copy, so I'll be getting the money tomorrow, and so they are quite supportive in that, and they spread the word to their friends, and, even at church. My mom, because I'm quite shy. I've realized. You don't agree with that one. So my mom
Partly
had to
shy.
force me. So my mom had to force me to tell people at my church that I'm an author, so that they can buy. So yeah, I mean, so I think in their minds they just know Cole the lawyer, and hopefully the advocate in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know how it is when we go to school and our parents already have everything mapped out. In the next 3 years, in the next 4 years, I'm going to be a mother to an attorney. I'm going to be a mother. I'm going to be a mother to a doctor. So these are things that, the expectations that are there. Yeah. And so, like, a little diversion from your author, your entrepreneurship and everything else. You are also a secretary general for Falas Botswana. Can you tell us how that has changed your
Oh God, that was amazing. When I applied for Falas, I didn't know what I expected. Well, I didn't know what I expected to see or to experience. I just thought, well, it's just a position. I think I've probably done this before. I mean, I was in the SRC when I was younger. So yeah, it should be a walk in the park. But I realized that it was not. When you have to deal with human beings, and you have to give people tasks. You also have your own task, and you also have your director also expecting something. So fellas was it was a wonderful experience for me, especially because, like I said, I like to think of myself as a Pan-Africanist. So fellas offered that, that spirit of trying to unify African students in Fellas International. And of course, in Fellas Botswana, there was also that element of unification, of trying to unite all the law schools, or rather the schools of law in Botswana. It was a difficult task, and you will remember, we were rejected by one institution so many times. They couldn't even give a proper reason why they would not want to support us. We're not asking anything from them. So all those rejections, they get to you. You work so hard on something, and just doesn't happen. You are frustrated. Sometimes you have to deal with officers below you that you have to take difficult decisions that that they will probably damage your relationships with those people outside, even because sometimes people will not be able to draw the difference between at the institution and outside. You may find that they actually your relationship with them may be difficult, may not even be repairable, which is quite unfortunate and very painful. So, but I got to grow as a leader, to know that sometimes it's necessary to make those decisions, to grow as a leader, to know that when you are given tasks, you have to execute them in a timely manner. If you can't do them in a timely manner, you have to explain that you will not be able to do that. You have to accountability is one of the things that I learned so much when I was in Falas, that all the time you have to be accountable. And of course, I was serving as the Secretary General. This means that you have to pay attention in the meetings because you are the ones writing the minutes. And you don't want to say that the director said this when she never said, and she was not even in the meeting. And you're already attributing certain words to them. So I got to grow that, and also to network with other students. I've gained myself some friends from other institutions that we are still close even to now, even though I'm no longer in Falas, but we still keep in contact. They still see me as somebody, I don't know, significant or something, So and also we gained some victories there that are just amazing, and I can't even put those feelings into words. So it was quite an interesting experience for me. And I encourage anyone who can, if the opportunity is there and you want to volunteer, do volunteer, do apply, and that's also the spirit of volunteering, because I think the spirit of volunteering also teaches you the importance of selflessness, to be of to service of others, for no pay really, because maybe people think that when the positions are saying volunteer for this, there's something, maybe a stipend or something. No, it's it's you actually using your resources to work for other students, which is quite something that it teaches you a very brilliant lesson in life. And I think it's similar to what Yosaki said in his book, God did reach there. Sometimes you must work for. So that's what I learned from becoming a member of Falas. And of course, it's there on my CV, and I have written about it, and hopefully it will help me get other opportunities. So yeah, and I have the certificate as proof.
But you know what they say, that givers never lack. And when you volunteer, what you're basically giving is you're giving a huge chunk of who you are, yourself, your time, your resources, without really getting anything back to you, material anyway, in return. But that experience, the skills you gain, all those, everything comes together. By the time you look at it, you realize that you've actually amassed together this force that you're going to carry with you for the rest of your life, that will be there for you when you need it. It's like they usually say about prayer, like when you pray, your prayer can wait for you in the future. The same thing, similarly, when you volunteer, it also gives future employers, or maybe even future business partners, to say, oh, this kind of person, they're not money hungry. There are people who are very result oriented and will do all that is needed, even if they're not getting anything really in return for it. And I think it's something that we really need in the legal fraternity, especially when it comes to issue of providing legal aid and legal assistance to people who are less privileged in the society, because the the legal aid itself is very expensive. Litigation is a very costly business.
Yeah.
So, you know, when
Yeah.
you volunteer and you begin to give in of yourself, you realize that no, it's very important as a human being to do these things so that, you know, we are making impacts in another's lives. And you didn't even have to, and it's not even a matter of money, like, no, I donated 100,000, I donated this much. No,
Yeah.
I gave of myself, and these are
Yeah.
the fruits of my sacrifice. Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for encouraging the youth to participate not only in Palace Botswana but also in non-governmental organizations or any organization or anything at all that will, you know, impact society in a positive way. And one of the things that you've actually also participated in are mood competitions. And what would you say? I mean, what can you briefly tell us about your experience as a, you know, as a mooter, and what will you tell somebody who might be interested in joining mooting competitions?
Yeah. Yo, mooting was the best experience of my whole school days. You know, it's not just because it's not just about pretending to be a lawyer. You know, you also learn so much during the process. So I remember my first moot. We did Barato and I did the Nelson Mandela competition. But of course, prior to that, we did for Max. But that was my very, very first. And I remember I couldn't sleep because I was excited. I wanted to wear that gown, wear that bead, go there, and just make my arguments and be excited, be happy about it, and get marks. But when you get there, things become very, very complicated. You that picture perfect idea that you had about or about what you're going to experience, you find that nothing close to what you imagined. Your presentation will be shattered into pieces because they will ask you about what you didn't even prepare for, and you just can't say you don't know, but you also don't want to lie to the courts. So it's you can't manufacture your own case. It's just but it was very interesting. One thing that I've always tried to do, and this is one of the advices that Chandaganga told me always says, that if you don't enjoy it while doing it, then you probably shouldn't do it. So I've always I try to enjoy myself in court, even with those questions. I just try to have fun, smile, crack a joke, even if he doesn't laugh, laugh alone. But mostly they, of course they can't laugh. You just chuckle and say, "Oh, okay, so move on." But I was just enjoying myself. And when we did the Nelson Mandela one, now for the first time, I wasn't just dating one judge, because my first mood was a closed then just in an office and having a conversation about the hypothetical question. It was nice, relaxed, chilled. But when you go to the competition now, nobody was smiling with you. They were all serious, and you are intimidated even before you say anything. You are told this person is an expert in this field. They have an LLM in this. This is a doctor of law.
Intimidation.
You're just there like, I can't fool this person. I can't say anything that they don't know, and I can't be my own principle because they just know everything that I know. So and then there's 5 of them. They're all firing you with questions. You have less than 15 minutes to speak, but you have many arguments to make. So, but it was fun. Sometimes it was depressing. I remember there was a court. My partner and I, we called it the devil's court because all of them, it's like they were competing on how to make our lives miserable.
Wow.
Because our questions were just we're just out of those walls and nothing to be prepared for, you know. So, but we learned a lot because we also met brilliant students, you know, people who would just look at the screen and just make their arguments, cite their authorities in a precise manner. They would even, if they would not just cite the case, they would cite the paragraph and even the line in that judgment. And you're just there. You can't even, you didn't even include the year in your case. You're just there like, yo, this person is saying all the volume numbers and I'm just here. So we got to meet such students and they inspired us. We learned a lot from them. You know, so that was our first meet. And we, you know, if we were maybe other people could have just said, this thing is not working. Because we didn't win. We lost on the very preliminary rounds for the world moot. But one thing that we learned was that we lost against the best in the world, because this is the highest you can be at. So in that way, you're not even losing, because those are just like, you're just meeting people who are just perfect in their oratory skills and their knowledge of the law. And our memorials was in top 7 in the world, so that was amazing. And the best part about it is that nobody even helped us, you know, because nobody wrote. Well, we're not pretending to have written that. We actually did, and knowing that and being acknowledged for it was wonderful. And of course, the second one was the Africa Gender Moot competition. That one we learned so much, and even feminism, what feminism actually means, you know, some of the things that are hidden that we would not normally talk about, because the moot was focused on women issues, you know. And even when you look at the substantive rights, like when you say you have guaranteed the right to education for a girl child, for example, what a mechanism have you put in place to make sure that they realize that right? What measures do you have if a child has to drop out because they have been maybe because they're pregnant, whether, you know, and of course it can't be willful if they're still students, because then it's either they've been defiled or they've been raped, you know. And if they are dropping out, then what does that say to their right to education? If they don't have the sanitary towels and they don't go to school, that means that you have not fully guaranteed their right to education. If they don't have food at home and they come to school hungry and they can concentrate in class, that means that their right to education is also being probably infringed upon, because they're not fully enjoying it. The situation at home is terrible, and you know, like those little things that we never look at. We are able to be exposed to that when we were during our research, and also during the opening ceremonies, where we had experts in those fields to teach us about those rights. Like, you know, that it's not enough just to put it in the constitution to say, well, you have the right to this, and that's it. Nobody can take it away from you. But if you're not putting in mechanisms that are in place for people to properly enjoy that right, then you're not guaranteeing that right, you know. So they showed us how issues linked to rights, even issues that you would not think that they are related to those fundamental rights. And they also exposed to us to situations in our continent that, you know, there are some nations that have it really terrible. There are kids who don't go to school like many people do here in our country. Like, the situation is just terrible. And, you know, we got exposed to those kind of things through reading the cases from the courts. and also through the researches that have been done. And we also got to learn that even our fundamental rights in our, in your charter, in your African charter, in your what, that if you live in a country like Botswana, for example, our country has not deposited the special declaration accepting the jurisdiction of the African Court of Human and People's Rights. So that means that you can't take your matter to that court, even if your rights are infringed upon. So you got to realize those things that we didn't even know. We knew that, okay, fine. If the Court of Appeal doesn't side with you, you can always go to the African Court. But you can't just go to the African Court, because your country, which is something I find very funny and funny, your country has to consent to you taking them to court, which is just ridiculous. Like, I'm going to beg you, can I please take you to court? And then you're like, maybe not, and that's it. So we got to learn. So we get to learn some of these things. So for anyone who is interested in motive, and you are going to also learn about things that you were not taught in class. You know, a semester is too short to teach you everything you know. But for a month, I'm telling you, you are going to learn the whole law material in just few days, because that's what you need for your month. Because you have to know how the laws link. You have to know your human rights, how it links with your humanitarian law, how it links with your law of the sea, how it links with your how it links with the constitution, how it links, like all those things, environmental, all of them. You have to know them and how they apply. So it's going to teach you a lot about how to appreciate law holistically. And of course, that's the most important thing. And then there are pets. So you just need to entice those who are still not sure at this point whether they want to move or not. Well, other than getting the certificate, signed, certificate of appreciation, signed by experts in their field, former judges, people who are, running, who are lecturers in prestige, in universities far away. Other than that, if that's not enough for you to brag to your kids one day to say, look, this man who was a judge at this court actually signed the certificate and my name is here. If that's not enough, then you get to travel. Okay, you get to travel. There are many people who have never left the country. We take this for granted. There are many people who have been born, they've never left the country. So you can leave your country through mooting. You work hard enough, get to the next level. You can fly out of your country. You can live you can stay in nice places. For example, it was my first time staying in a hotel, which is quite. Some people didn't even believe me when I said, this is that you take for granted. This little things that you don't consider privilege, but they're actually privilege because not everybody gets to experience this. So, and maybe you've never even had a passport, like you've never felt the need to make one. Actually, have a passport for the first time in your life. You get to those countries, you meet people from different countries. You can have friends from all over Africa. True. By just being part of a mood. Imagine saying that I have a friend in Nigeria, and if you were to ever go there, you can just call them. Oh, I'm in your country. That's just nice. Those are some of the perks of it. So I encourage any law students, especially for those who are in third year, please participate, even if you are not paid, because your seniors will probably know more than you. That's really but just the experience of it, just be there, try. I've been against kids who were younger than a whole 30 year tearing down your argument, and you ask them, what year are you? And I say, I was in 30 years. Yo, I'm a final year. Just did that to my argument. So you get to learn some of those things. So be there, join, guys, join competitions.
Thank you very much. And I really do hope that any one of a law student that is listening, that they would really take that. Because I know that with Mutin, like you're saying, you it exposes you to a whole different world of learning when it comes to the law. Outside the classroom environment and everything, you are been exposed to learn, the normal timeline. And if anything at all, I think it's very important that we should actually for more beyond the classroom. The mooting exercises and competitions provide the opportunity just for that. And just before wrap up and call it a day, there was
Yeah.
something that you had posted today on your page and Facebook page that you're jealous of your younger self. And so, all these things that we've been discussing so far, you didn't get here by mistake. You put in the work, you did everything to be where you are now. So,
Yeah.
what lessons, if you are to go back in time, what lessons would you take from that younger self that you are jealous of and tell Cole what will help us today?
Yeah. Well, I think, the younger, if I were to speak to the younger me, I would tell him to do more. More in the sense of having the liberty to pursue whatever he thinks he needs to pursue. Go out there, make mistakes, especially because you don't know what I know now. Don't limit your thinking. Just think whatever you would want to think. You are right even when you are wrong. Just as long as you're not breaking the law that much, just 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 live, man. Be an 18-year-old. You just complete your 10 years. Just do it. You are in just a year. You will not be a teenager anymore. You're gonna know why your idea can't work. You are going to know why you can't just take land and give it to the people. You will know why you can't just close the border and say only food from this country will be eaten in this country. You don't know anything about economics. You don't know about inflation. Just as long as you think the solution of printing more money will get rid of poverty, kudos to you. That's a brilliant idea. Because you don't know what I know now. Just question everything you are told. Pursue and read more. Read books. Whatever piece of paper that you see, just read it and interrogate it. And dream as wild as you can. Don't limit yourself.
Wow. You've said all these things about what you would tell your younger self. I think I got this impression from the post today when you said you're jealous of your younger self. I think it was a clip from when you were, I think you were training for SRC elections at the University of Ghana. Was it the confidence of your younger self that you're jealous of? What was it that you had then that you think you know now?
Yeah, mostly it was the confidence and the bravery. Like I had a party and I was the only candidate in that party. Like that's just ridiculous.
That
Nobody has to
was
do. Who does that? No one should just wake up one day and say, yes, I have my own party. I'm gonna draft my own manifesto and I'm gonna critique. I'm
you
gonna read
did.
all the manifestos of other parties and critique them, break them down, and tell the students why they can't work and mine can. Like that's just unbelievable. Like nobody has to do that. Go to a debate with no supporters, nobody cheering on you, but you just keep on going and going and going because you believe in what you're saying and you know that you don't even need validation hands for you because you know that you are the crowd yourself.
Wow.
You know, go to UB and just be there. Find somebody to read the ballot for you and be voted by people. Like, you are not the only one who voted for yourself, yet you are by yourself. So I have to be jealous of that because I don't think I can do that again. You know, I would start thinking about my reputation. What would
Oh
people
my
say when I'm just running around alone? What would people say? You know, I was even taking the whole SRC to the student judiciary, you know,
gosh. Wow.
representing myself against fourth years, and I didn't even do civil procedure. You know, my representative also was in the same class with me, so we both couldn't do anything. So it's just I have to be jealous of that, and that was that was the purpose of my post earlier today, to say that I'm jealous of my
Your younger self. And that is, I think that's something we need to do this regular checkups on our soul. We need to do it once in a while. I'm still the same person. What has changed? Who am I now? A part of me that I've left in the past that I need to bring back to the present because I need that person for the journey. So it's important that we frequent stock of our lives and say, you know what, this needs to change, this needs to go, and okay, we just need to manipulate this, and that is really so important. And before I ask you to share about the details of your upcoming book launch, that is 1st of April, I would like to know, what has your faith in God, how has it influenced everything that you do?
Yes. You know, I can't remember any period of my life where I didn't have faith in God. You know, God has been a part of everything that I am, because I grew up in a church, and my mom took me to church every Sunday. And of course, nowadays there's debate of that on why I'm going to church on Sunday, but that's a topic for another day, not Saturday. When I was going, well, my mom said I should, so that's it. That's the answer. So she took me to church on Sundays, and I grew up at church. There were kids that because I grew up, for the most part, I grew up in a township. And when you grow up in a township, there are always kids playing in the streets. Always, even on Sundays, because either their parents are tired of always bathing them and beating them so that they can go to church, or or they just ran away early in the morning. So I was living in such an environment where there were kids my age who didn't like going to church, and here I did. They would mock me, some of them, but of course, they were not mocking me in the adult sense of mocking, but just as kids being kids, saying, "Oh, you're going to church, I'm playing, you're missing out," and just kid stuff. But I didn't care. I actually had a black suit that I wore every Sunday, and I loved it, and that was part of the reason why I couldn't miss church, because I get to wear my formal clothing and and have a tie on, and it was very nice. And then I grew up so believing that whenever I have difficulties in my life, I can just pray and God will hear me and he will do something about it. When you grow up with that mentality, things become easier for you. So everything, even at school, there was a point, and I think I will mention this also in my memo. There was a point in my life where I was struggling extremely academically, because I was just young. I loved to play. I didn't care about what I was saying in class. I was just looking at time. So when are we going for for break so that I can play. So I was doing terribly. Mom was stressed, but then I shocked her obviously at my PSLE. I did extremely well. She told me that she shouted at work. Everybody has to ask her what was wrong. She was like, I didn't expect this. So I think that was God doing his work, because he was saying, this kid has been doing everything I'm telling him to do, and he's been praying. He believes, he genuinely believes. When you are a child, when you believe something, like, I think that's what maybe as grown-ups we are required to do. But most of us will always find it difficult to achieve that state of mental being. But as a child, you reach it fully. You genuinely believe that if I pray for a toy, tomorrow it's coming. So those things. And obviously, when even nowadays, I still go to church. But there was, of course, a period in my life where I was, I think I was a teenager, and I, and I don't regret this, because I was questioning everything, from how we received the Bible itself, because I was now also delving into the area of history, learning about colonialism, learning about slavery, learning about slave trade, questioning that if God really exists, then why did he let my people to be subjected to all these atrocities? I mean, we have never had peace. Why are we being the one being branded with hot irons, land taken, our people killed, all those terrible things happening? Why is this happening? Even research to who wrote the Bible, because I actually even wanted to know who actually wrote this book that I'm being told to read, that is the word of God. Who wrote it, and why did they write it? Then of course, when you then research, you get to find some of the things that are quite interesting for you. It's like, aha, okay, so this is actually what happened. Okay, so this is how it was compiled. This is where it's from. This is how it was recovered. Okay, so some people were interpreting it this way to suit their own narratives. Some people were deliberately, tampering with it because they wanted to achieve this and this. Okay, fine, but you then try to reconcile your history with your what you learned from the Bible, and you start reading it. You start appreciating it. You start listening to debates between people, because I used to listen to that Muslim debates between Muslims and Christians, because they are always arguing those ones. So I've I've listened to them. I consumed a lot of that, and it took me a while to start forgiving God. I don't know if I have the power to forgive him or what, but at least in my experience, I started to say, okay, fine, let's see how this will play out. As much as this is the case, but you've been doing this in my life, and I think if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have achieved this, and there's no way I've achieved this on my own. So that's how much believing in something that you cannot see. That's because actually that's what actually Jesus says. Say that you guys are lucky because you believe in me even when you did not live with me. There are those who lived with me during my time that didn't even believe it. So you guys are actually blessed, because you actually like, there are people who literally saw me with their eyes and they still said, no. So you get to see some of those things, and you really have to. There's no way you can attribute all these creations to something that happened on chance. Our world has been constructed with the greatest precision. I was listening to a podcast earlier, about a week ago, and somebody said, do you know that what actually sustains life on Earth is, he said about, is it 260 kilometers above or 240, something like that. Like, literally, that's what is sustaining us. If that thing was not there, we wouldn't be here. So you can't tell me that happened on chance, you know? So everything has been deliberately created. And so, yeah, I found my way back to try and now grow. And even nowadays, I still have questions that have not been, that I can't answer. But I'm now taking it as a life journey, because I'm starting to make peace with the fact that I won't have all the answers. I won't have explanations for everything. I can't have the complete understanding of God and everything that's just so that's how much in my eyes, in my academics, especially my academics. I can't remember a single test I wrote without grade. I'm always asked to intervene on my behalf. Go there before I go there, so that you can send everything back. So yeah, I think on a daily basis, thank you for my life and for my family.
Yeah, thank you very much for being very authentic and raw about your journey with God, because it is something that is different for each person. You know, go through different things that will change what we believed, and like you experienced yourself. And like you said, we don't have all the answers, but like like you said, like Jesus said, are those who believe, even if that when they haven't seen me, I mean they haven't seen, but you know, it takes faith, and that's where faith comes in. You need to believe that I can see him, I can't always feel him, but I know he is, because it lives inside of us and he's sovereign and in control. And even the things that's in control, we can't say no, like you can't even explain it. There's some things that happen to you, like, nah, the only explanation is that can only be God. And you know, it's a very important part of all our lives and our lives journey. So yeah, you know, this has been very intensive and extensive interview with you, because I've had a chance to ask you questions that touched on different parts of who you are as a person. You know, your political ideologies, your faith, your academics, your skills, your talent. I mean, everything that I could pick on. Everything that I could pick on, and I know more. And we're going to have other session where we're going to break things into smaller things, where we can actually dig deeper into some of these things. I really believe with my whole heart that today's session, I think if anybody that is going to listen to it, you're going to carry a lot of gems out of it, because you touch on so many things that, you know, you're literally just providing answers and directions to so many questions that many people have on different areas. And I hope this has been very enlightening for everyone, as it has been for me, because you know, learning is it's a never-ending process. Learning ends the day you die. And I really hope that this talk today, it's a beginning of not just greater things for someone out there listening to you, but even for yourself, that as you're talking, as these things, you know, as you're taking them out, you're able to pick here and there, like, oh, this here, this there, let's go this way. So thank you so much. And finally, I would like you to give us details about your upcoming book launch. I think that's next week, right? Please give us more details.
Oh yes. I'll be launching my first book. The Englishman is gone. Yes. Yes, that's fine. So at the University of Botswana, Gaborone, and the launch will be at block 252 and room 015. So that is where we'll be. And that room will not fit, I think, more than 50 people. So you guys have to start sending those messages. And I think I have few slots available for anyone who still have the opportunity to join. So the launch is on the 1st of April, and it starts in the evening, because I wanted to make sure that those who have engagement in the morning, or for those who are at work, they'll also be able to join. Start at 5:45 in the evening, 5:45 in the evening, and it will end at 7:45 in the evening. So, so because we also wanted to target for those who use public transport, so that you don't get that late and connected. So yeah, it's very important that you come, especially because this launch is I think is the first of its kind, because there's no sale for tickets. I only want those who have read the book, because we're talking about the book. I'm not selling anybody any tickets. I'm broke. I can assure you. I need that money. I can assure you, but I will not sell any tickets. I use my personal funds to book venue and to make other arrangements. I just want you to come if you read the book, so that because you're going to talk about the book from the first chapter to the last chapter. There are just 6 chapters in the English manuscript, and I know that those who bought the book, they haven't read it. Start reading it, because we'll be discussing it from the first chapter to the last. There are just 6 chapters. It's barely over 100 pages. Oh, come on. It's taking that long. And for those who don't have the book, between now and the 1st of April, the book that company is holding, it's not as thick as the Kabbalah. So you can just read it within. I know somebody who read it in a day. Like, I read it in one sitting. I couldn't move, because I don't know whether they just wanted to finish it or they actually found it interesting. Either way, it's your personal experience with the book. So tell me about it. I'm very excited, because it also helps me with if you enjoyed the book. Then it's amazing. So you can still get the book now, and it's on special. It's only $100. People bought it for 100. So you'll be just buying it for 100, and after the launch is going back to the original price. And the sad thing about it is that I wanted to call it the launch of the book, and not necessarily the launch, because I'll be taking it off the market for personal reasons. I think I have probably outgrown it. And I know when I say this, so with the greatest respect for my elders, because I know it's not about bats. I don't think I'll be printing any more copies locally. But if you still want it, you're still persistent in wanting to get it, you will get it from Amazon. That's where you'll get it. And I'll see just how serious you are. If you're going to buy a paperback, for example, it will take around 3 weeks for the book to come. And you have to pay for shipping costs, and you're going to pay tax at the post office. So I'll just see how serious you are and going to take it. If you're willing to go through all that stuff, you can just get an ebook. It's easier to get an ebook. It's cheaper on Amazon. But I'll be so we'll just be talking about the book, and I'll be getting your experiences. I want you guys to tell me what you thought about the book, what you thought it lacked, what you think. If should I read, because there are people who are saying I should write the English manuscript part 2. If you want me to write part 2, then why do you want me to write part 2? Because I don't have the intention of writing part 2. But if you want me to write part 2, then you have to explain to me why I have. But you can't tell me on Messenger, Facebook. You tell me at the launch. So that's the only condition that I have. The only way I'm going to write the part 2 is if you tell me that's my case at the launch. And those who have their books, they have not been signed. Guys, come. You can even take the picture. We can sign that book for you. Yours is signed.
They must be signed. They must be signed. Where's this thing?
Yes.
They must be signed.
Yes. And a special message for you. One day I will be big, and and I'll not have time to write you a personalized message.
Yes.
So take
The
this opportunity
autograph.
also. Yeah, so that was happening at launch.
Oh, that's great. That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
And I think like I mean, that is a launch in COLE MOTLOGELWA's style, not in anybody's style, not following anybody's precedents, but your own unique style of launching your book and making readers to get to understand, not pick your brain necessarily, but really get to meet you like as soulmate, like we're clicking into who you are, and your book is giving us that opportunity. And yeah, that's a very good approach to launching your work. And I do believe that it's going to be a resounding success and a stepping stone to greater, not only, as an author, but also in all different aspects of who you are as a person.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. Yeah.
We've been speaking for over an hour and a half.
I look at it, oh wow, it's been that long. Like, well, we just started, like, it's not that long ago, right? I think it's because you know what I'm talking about. Like, it's you, COLE MOTLOGELWA, a young person, but just look at the bulk of knowledge you're oozing. In the words of who, that you are oozing of everything. So you see, finally, like it goes back to to what I'd shared earlier in the week, that I'm not bringing people here who think, oh, this is a celebrity. Not that you're not a celebrity in your own right, by the way. But like we have this mentality of, oh, when I have a talk show, I want to bring the mama who is at this level, who is a top politician or a top celebrity somewhere. But the thing is, those people that are around us that we're taking for granted, they'll know the answers.
And they don't have the publicity secretary writing.
They don't. And that's what we're taking advantage of. Those ones that are your neighbors, but you're not taking advantage of what they're carrying. That grace, that anointing, we're taking it. We're taking it. We're sharing it with everybody that would love to have their lives completely transformed for the best. So thank you so much for taking so much of your time. I've taken much of your time because I had so many questions I wanted to ask you. And I know that questions are going to come, not today, obviously, but I know that the best is going to come. The next time I'm going to bring you here, it's going to be more fireworks.
I'll be the friend of the show. I'll pop in here. Those. Once in a while.
It's been a while. And there's actually a comment here by our fellow author, Laone Kabelo, and she wrote a wonderful and exciting interview that you have there, Ms. Bosede Luyomi, with your guest, COLE MOTLOGELWA. I've watched the entire time.
Wow. Somebody has that.
Somebody. And I learned a lot from the both of you. I am looking forward to many more of your interviews, ma'am. And congratulations on your first episode. Thank you so much, Laone. Thank you so much. That means a lot. You see what I mean, Cole?
Actually, she's an author, a good friend of mine. I've read her book, Is It the End of It All? Brilliantly written book. I can't wait to wait till it's on one.
Yeah. She published that one. I think was it not last month? It was not that long.
Yeah, I think it was last month.
Yeah. So Miss Laone, one day is one day, You might find yourself on the hot seat very soon.
You might change places.
Yes, trading places. Yeah, it will be Mr. MOTLOGELWA on the comment section. Yes, way to go, Miss Laone. Thank you so much, Laone, watching from the very beginning to the very end. And yes, and she's a very passionate and supportive author. Like you're talking about Ubuntu, everybody's supporting themselves. She's somebody who has actually, been very supportive of my work since we got to know each other. Not I think last year, yes. So I thank you so much, Mr. Onekabelo. I really appreciate you. I really, really do. And I pray, I hope that everybody else that watch this later on, they will get the same much value, because the value in this interview is not something that we should take for granted, especially as young people. I'm repeating myself, especially as young people, do not despise each other's knowledge and journey. There's so much you can learn from each other. Please, please, please don't forget that. So thank you so much, Mr. Motlogewa. Thank you so much for taking your time, like I said, and delivering all of this, without paying to that anything. Okay, that day's gonna come. You'll be paid to talk. You'll be paid to talk, but for now we're taking full advantage of our connection and networking. Yes. So thank you so much. I really appreciate this, and I pray the best of the best for you, that you reach all the greatest height that you need to reach and fulfill your purpose in life in Jesus' name. Everyone, thank you every person that will watch later on. And this has been a very interesting opening, soul meet, and I've learned a lot from today's episode and things I have to implement going forward. So thank you so very much. Thank you very much once again, Cole.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. So that's it, everyone. This is your very first episode of Soul Meet, and subsequent ones are going to come by God's grace, and we keep learning, we keep growing together, and enlarging territories, conquering territories, and becoming the best version of ourselves. Have a good night and stay safe. Take care of yourself. Never forget, you're made for more. Man. Bye bye, Cole. Bye, everyone. Bye bye.